My snowblower started having problems with the wheels not working right. They would either lock up completely, they wouldn't engage, and shifting became really difficult to the point where eventually the machine didn't even move at all. I knew I had a problem with the drivetrain, and it ended up being the friction wheel shaft bearing assembly that needed to be replaced. I'm gonna run through the replacement process step by step, and remember, most snowblowers are all kind of the same. So even if you don't have this early vintage 1900s model snowblower, your machine is probably gonna be pretty similar.
And to get started, you're going to tip the machine up on its end and remove the belly pan, okay? So it's 4 bolts. It comes off pretty easily, and if yours is anything like mine, you're going to have a giant mouse nest in it. Isn't that cool? And this leads us to the problem area right here. This should not be loose like that. It should be very tight on the shaft and should not have a whole lot of play at all. And you can see that it's totally junk. It's come off the shift fork right there, and it's just sort of freely spinning around. It should not be doing that whatsoever. So yeah, there is actually nothing driving the wheels right now on this snowblower. Now to loosen the shaft is 4 bolts, 2 on each side. If you like doing things the hard way like I do, you'll keep the wheels on, and once you get those bolts out, you can pivot kind of the whole thing forward and get that little keeper off the side there. You're going to want to hang on to that because you will need that during the reassembly. That little washer is tricky. And my plan here was to just pivot the whole shaft to the side and be able to slide the whole thing right off. And it worked out pretty slick. The chain and sprocket is on the left side. It's hard to see from this angle, but I didn't want to mess with any of that. I wanted to do things as quickly and easily as possible, and look at that. It worked out just great. Whole assembly right off, no problems. And this is our replacement part. At the top of the video, I mentioned all snowblowers being basically the same. You can see from the packaging that this is a Briggs & Stratton part that was advertised as a part to replace on a Murray snowblower, and I'm going to be putting it on my Noma Spirit snow thrower. So like I said, all snowblowers are kind of the same. You have to look at what you have, reference part numbers, and a lot of these things cross over, and it's not a big deal. We have to transfer the friction wheel over to the new part because the new part did not come with it. That's easily done with 3 bolts. It pops right off, and you can see a little bit of a difference in the recess there in the old part compared to the new one, but all 3 holes line up perfectly, so it's not a big deal, and it's going to work out just fine. Now to bolt the new wheel onto the assembly, the new part actually has these little cutouts that makes access to get those bolts a little bit easier than the old part did. So that was kind of cool to see. And just so you guys know, all of the links for all the tools and parts that I use in this video, I'm going to throw it in the description. Yes, of course, I'm going to hook you up. If you want to dive in further and look into things a little bit deeper, you got the links right there. Easy reference. Always going to hook you up every single video. We're going to slide that bearing assembly right back on the way we came off, and like most things, it was harder to get back together than it was to take apart, but due to the magic of video editing, I was able to make this thing look sort of like it went right back together, no problems. But it kind of fought me a little bit, so full disclosure there. Now the tricky part is getting the washers on and aligning that piece with the shift fork. Everything has to kind of line up in order for it all to work right. It's easy to get it back into place, but aligning it against that shift fork in the right spot, that takes a little bit of time, and a third hand would be nice, but you know, you'll get it done. You just have to, you know, work with it a little bit. And here I am again, Mr. Don't take the wheels off, do things the hard way. I guess I just like the pain, but here I am trying to struggle to get access to the bolt. Yeah, I've got ratcheting wrenches though, so don't worry about me. I'll get through it just fine. But yeah, if I were to do this again, take the wheels off from the beginning. Don't. This is a video of what not to do, but I got it handled. And look at that thing spin. Ooh, it's pretty. Perfectly spinning. That's what it should be. Now that plate on the bottom that's moving up and down, that's actually what causes your snowblower to be able to drive forward. When the engine is running, that plate is always turning, okay? And what causes the wheels to start spinning is that when you squeeze on your hand lever, that brings that plate up in contact with that rubber wheel, and that's what then in turn rotates the wheel. Now, as far as the shifting goes, all that's doing is changing the position that rubber wheel is actually making contact with that plate. So farthest to the outside, like in that position right there, that's going to be the fastest speed possible. And then towards the center of that plate, that's going to kind of slow down. That's your first speed. If you go to the left of center of that plate, like right there, that's actually reverse. So that's how that whole mechanism works. So that bearing assembly has a lot to do with how the snowblower drives. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, think about subscribing to the channel. I got my snowblower working, and I hope you get yours back running too. Thanks, bye!